All right, quick little topic here, but an important one. We need to talk about truthiness and falsiness, or just truthy and falsy values, or inherent truthiness and falsiness. I don't know how to even spell truthiness and falsiness, honestly. It doesn't matter. I don't think they're official terms, but most people recognize them. Anyway, let's talk about what they mean. Every value in JavaScript, every single one, has an inherent truthiness and falsiness. That obviously does not mean they are true and they are false. There's only two values that are actually true and false. We know them. Exactly true and exactly false. But every value, whether it's the string algar or the number 98 or the value null, they all have an inherent truthiness or falsiness to them. They all have either a light side or dark side, or good or evil, or just true and false, right? And we don't need to assign inherent moral to them either. It's just, are they truthy or falsy? Now, this matters for a couple of reasons we'll see as we make more progress, but let me just lay out the rules. Every single value in JavaScript is considered truthy except for the following. False. Okay, that one makes sense. It should be falsy. 0. Empty string, null, undefined, and not a number, or NaN. Everything else is truthy. So let me show you what this looks like, or how we could see this in practice. I have a new script, a new HTML document, and I'm going to do something right here. I'm going to prompt a user, enter something. Save that to a variable, const input, or user input, or something like that. Okay. Now, if a user enters nothing, if it just pops up right away, I'm refreshing, here it is, enter something, and I just hit enter right away, the value of user input, if I look at it, it's an empty string. And we've seen that empty strings are inherently falsy. So I can do this right here. If user input, and I don't have to compare it to anything. I can literally just say if there is a user input. Because if it's any string other than an empty string, that will be truthy. So console.log truthy, otherwise console.log falsy. Okay? So I'm going to try this. I'm going to type something, anything, a string. Truthy. All we wrote was if user input. I didn't say if it equals something, if it's greater than something. I just said if user input. So we know user input is not true or false, the actual value true or false, but it's going to be coerced into a Boolean, into its truthiness or inherent falsiness. It will be revealed. So if it's a string that has anything in it, it's truthy, and we see console.log truthy. But if I just hit enter right away, no text, we get falsy. This tells us, well, it doesn't really tell us anything because we already knew this, but it shows that an empty string is considered falsy. So I'll show you a few more examples. We can do something like if false. Well, we know what happens with if false. But if we do if 0, console.log 0, let's just do truthy there, else console.log falsy. And we should see falsy because 0 itself is considered falsy. So if we do if 0, it's like doing if false. That's just not going to be true. And the same goes for some of the other values we've seen. For example, null, falsy. If I have any other number, by the way, I didn't show that, but they're truthy. Even a negative number, -1, truthy. It's just 0 and not a number. So let's try not a number, falsy. And the last one we have after null, we've got to do undefined, which is inherently falsy as well. So anything else, a string, a number, what else do we have? The Boolean true, any number, any string that is not empty, even if it's just a space, that's truthy. The falsy here is because I didn't comment this one out. Okay, so this is something we can take advantage of often in a situation like this right here, where we have some variable, some input, or something that's coming from somewhere else. And we're going to check just if it exists or if there's a value inside of that string or if it's an empty string, or if a value has been defined. If a variable actually has data in it and it's not undefined or it's not null, I can simply write if user input. I don't need to do if it equals or if it's not equal to an empty string. I can simply do if it's inherently truthy, do that, otherwise do that. And this will come into play in a little bit because next up we're going to learn more about logical operators and combining pieces of logic, and often this inherent truthiness and falsiness will come into play.